Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final weekend of the 40 Days of Peace Conference and our living ceremony workshop called Eagle Medicine, Flying Above a World of Chaos, with our beloved elders of the Four Directions. My name is Mari Fix McEwen, Shenaved Seneta Bofush Koidentus from the Yew Tree Clan Ewing, and my lineage lands are in Kilfinnan and Ulster, and I reside in the unceded territories of the Tatvium, Tonga, and Keech and Chumash tribal peoples. I was recognized as an elder for my people in 2015 by Maestro Hermano Vidal, or Vidal Ayas Sanchez, and his Council of Peruvian Elders, and was given the task to bring my people back to their indigenous roots, as well as to unite the indigenous people from the Four Directions. And that is one of the main charges of this group, Living Ceremony, to educate people on how to return to their true nature, to work together, and to make what Elder Patricia Ann Davis calls life-affirming choices. By the way, if you're listening to this workshop live or via video now, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Living Ceremony, Ancestors of the Four Directions. The link will be in the chat, and you can also find it on YouTube under Ancestors of the Four Directions. And a thank you to Ingrid Fortmeyer, Cynthia Klatt Cunningham, and Ava for your tech support on this broadcast. So go ahead and put those links in the chat, Cynthia. In this workshop, we will be discussing Eagle Medicine, Flying Above a World in Chaos. This workshop is dedicated to the process of healing, understanding what we need to see, that we need to see any issue in context of the whole to understand its root. It's a lack of understanding about this fact that allows us to make errors in judgment, hold prejudices, and not perceive from a true place of wisdom. As with any true healing in society and within ourselves, we need to identify what it is out of harmony, name the out of balance condition, identify what is true instead, and then purify, and then replace that which is out of harmony in our mind with that which is in harmony. In the last few workshops, we've been exploring how colonialism, capitalism, and racism have jeopardized our lives and the ecosystem of the planet. We have identified how different strategies and systems have been used and put into place and devised by some to create a divide between the people, create privilege, and take control. This has created ecological devastation as well as theft of the land and resources, and it has placed us squarely on the hamster wheel of constant work to pay rents and mortgages from stolen land. It has left us with a system that was built by slave labor and has tyranny and devastation in its wake, and we continue to suffer from it, barely coping as we wonder, when is it coming for us? Not only has that created the perpetrator and victim archetypes that Patricia will speak on, but it has also created an atmosphere of defense and denial. In this workshop, we both continue looking at that fact as well as begin to find our way into healing by identifying ways to be in right relationship with Mother Earth, right relationship with our true nature, and ways to be in right relationship with each other. Please trust this experiential process. Just to let you know, the chat will not be open for much of our workshop for security reasons, and the only exception is possibly for a specific segment of our workshop to take questions. Please make note if anything comes up for you during this workshop, as you are an important part of the whole and the solution as we strive to work together. We now begin with ceremony, sanctifying the space, calling in the directions, and sharing prayer. We now open our living ceremony. We start with a purification and blessing. and I pass to Ava.
Creator, grandfathers, grandmothers, this is your granddaughter Wamadi Towiya speaking. Welcoming all here from the 4 directions into this sacred circle. We cleanse and purify ourselves in a good way with the clearing power of the cedar medicine and the gentleness of the sage. As the earth and fire join themselves and transmute each other, invite these healing medicines to completely wash over your body, mind, and spirit. Visualize anything that you brought with you that you don't wish to hold on to. Let it go in a kind and gentle way. May you feel lighter and brighter and clear to communicate in this purified circle of intention and creation. All my relations. I pass to the center.
Passing to Cynthia to open the directions.
I call in the east, Zvad, in the element of air, Obietstva. I call in the south, Guadnia, in the element of fire, Ogien. I call in the west, Zachad, in the element of water, Boda. I call in the north, Unats, in the element of earth, Jemia. I call in the above and the below, Nad, E, Pod. And I return to the center.
And I call to Auntie Molly to pray us in.
Cook, be guardian spirits, the 4 winds, 4 directions. We greet you and we welcome you as we give thanks for this day. We give you thanks, O great creators. We've come together to share our concerns and our love for our planet and our people and all within it, as we say, all our relations. And great creator, we ask you to bless us and help us to pay attention to the message that is deep within and help us to bring forth that message to share with others, that they may come to understand that their participation is drastically needed in order to bring about the changes that are required. I pray, O great creator, for this to happen, for the sake of the people who are suffering out of other people's need for power and greed. And pray, O great creator, that you would help those who are suffering at this time, to bring them to the light, to show them that they are part of your creation, and to help them to walk in a good way, and to help us to redeem ourselves to the universe that we have unsettled for so long, and help us to regain our footing, to place our being where we would do good to our fellow and to Mother Earth. We pray, asking you, great creator, believing in what we ask, that you will grant unto us. We thanks at this time, Takam Shnuknuka, we say, all my relations.
All my relations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Under the divine law of our primordial nature, the truth, love, justice, and harmony, the understanding of the law of interdependence, I hereby open this living ceremony with our elders of the 4 directions. This opening is a combination of what is essential in ourselves. Here we seek to find, make aware, and embody the truth of our nature, the clearing of all delusions, and the caretakership of the very life we are in service to. In this congruence, we attain peace in ourselves and in the quadrants. Hello and welcome, my relations. Let us all pray together and close our eyes. Listening deeply with our hearts so that we may open the door to healing within ourselves and between us all. Knowing that even if our discussion triggers wounds, defense, feeling misunderstood, or pain, that what is arising is a signal that Spirit is calling these things up for reevaluation. Let us look deeply into the mirror of what our elders and brothers and sisters experience in compassion and understanding, seeing in it the reflection of our own hurt, pain, needs, wants, and aspirations. Knowing there may be obstacles to overcome and misunderstandings. However, with love, all things are possible. So I dedicate this prayer and the prayer of Auntie Molly and all your prayers from your heart and this workshop to this process. With enough love, we can get through anything to understanding and common ground. If we look boldly at the shadow within us and in the outside world, we may find that it no longer holds sway over us, and that we free ourselves from any illusions and subconscious patterning. I now call to the heart within us that knows no fear, that seeks to set things into harmony, that dares to walk and live by the path of greatness for the healing of earth and all her peoples. May we look to this heart and know that together we have the power, no matter what it may look like or what we have been told. The power to step into this alignment with life and each other for the good of the whole. And may we have the courage to take that path and make it a reality. Please feel yourself expanding into the whole of life, for you are truly one with it. Holding hands with each other of like heart and intention, dropping unneeded defenses, the outmoded, any hardening of the heart, looking courageously into the mirror, forming a new way that is in alignment with love and life itself, your original nature. I now place our individual and group prayers for love and healing into the fire as we begin. So please pray your prayers internally as I put those prayers into the fire. Bless these prayers, Creator, Duhas, all my relations. As you listen and participate in this workshop, stereotypes and generalizations may be referred to like white people do this, or native people do that, or the elite, the powers that be. They could be any stereotypes. Know that these generalizations are markers of tendency in society, that we are working with them just to make some headroom into a larger issue. Please hold an open stance when this happens, knowing that there is a greater goal that will be addressed as we have our eye on the big picture here. It also helps us to start redefining any cherished beliefs and clarifying definitions that may have been usurped, outmoded, or be accidentally accepted unconsciously. If you're triggered or offended as some of the material presented or shared may seem disturbing or disorienting, I invite you to notice what you may need that has been triggered, and one more time. I invite you to notice what need you may have that has been triggered and the feeling that has triggered. For example, if you feel that you are being indirectly accused of something, you might find that you have a need for fairness or to be seen for who you are. Make a note of this. Likewise, if you hear that something that triggers you in what your brothers and sisters share, I invite you to look at the heart of what they are expressing and why. What they are needing by saying what they say. Do they need compassion, consideration, understanding, fairness, to be seen, safety for their children? Sometimes it takes patience to get to the heart of a matter and a period of uncomfortability. So we encourage each person to challenge themselves and take the time to look carefully at each thing presented while looking within, loving yourself and others through the change. That's really what it's going to take to make these changes. Ultimately, we trust that you will take care of yourself. Our brothers and sisters are hurting on this planet. In fact, we are all hurting, but we may not yet realize it. I had the recognition that if we didn't take action and do some serious soul searching, that I was complicit on some level. As the hurt of one is the hurt of all. We are all intrinsically linked. We are all responsible for each other. We can't just let each other sink into the pit thinking, oh, well, it wasn't me this time, and go about our daily business. That's not love. Something inside dies when it looks away. Something shuts down. Something copes that shouldn't. Something stiffens and puts a blindfold on, collapsing at the enormity of it all. And it may come knocking at the door of yours next time. We wonder why we have lost that joy and spontaneity of our youth, if we ever had it. Going along with the society and the atrocities is perpetration on ourselves and others. We are not meant to live this way, letting the mess spread. I know it seems like a lot to do and a lot to process. And it's an honor to do this repair work, this shadow work. It's not a burden. It's what is called for now. Look around you. It's obvious. It's time to free ourselves to see the truth and then walk into it in love. So here we are. What are we going to do about all this? How are we going to recreate this world so we can all thrive? Let's explore, let's cry, let's get real with each other. Let's cultivate the deepest of relationships where we can truly hear each other and meet all needs. Where we heal each other from all the shame, pain, and dysfunction, even back through our forefathers. No one left behind, not even the earth and her creatures. A true, unadulterated act of love to end all this madness. We now start with the heart of this workshop. Suicides, mass shootings, and craziness have become a regular, if not reoccurring, facet in human life, and at least in the news. People are experiencing more mental and physical health crises. Chemical contamination and runoff, antidepressants in the water supply, and psychotropic medications normalized, cancer on the upswing, EMF frequencies, chips in the brain, smart meters, cell phones, facial recognition, state-to-state passports monitoring, GMO trees and food, and glow-in-the-dark cats, playing God and creating a mass of radiation, pollution, poisoning, and birth defects. How do we navigate the world when it seems to have no real interest in compassion, sustainability, and health? Or seems to seems to have lost its barometer of center. Even if you think that some of these are conspiracies, how do we reach in and look at this without throwing the baby out with the bathwater? How do we stop from polarizing? How do we refrain from cancel culture so we can talk deeply about everything and create a safe space where people don't feel threatened? How do we peel that off so we can stand it and look at the situation clearly, impartially, and truthfully? We hear that all of this is inevitable, like AI, or this is progress. What makes that so? And who is touting that narrative? And after we have looked, how do we apply indigenous principles to bring it all back into balance? What can we all do about it, personally and collectively? And how do we start? And this is the most important word in the whole thing: together. I have a beautiful elder with me, Patricia Ann Davis, and she will introduce herself. And I would like to first start talking about some of the things that are going on in the world before we get into how to patch them up and how to reorient ourselves so we don't get dragged into ideas that are not real, but counter to our true nature. Because some of us basically have accepted ideas, and those ideas are leading us into coping with the world at large the way it is. And we have been conditioned by all sorts of things, the church, news media. We've been conditioned to think that, like I said, all things are inevitable and all these things have to pass, and all this is progress. And the question is this? People have been redefining words and making them nasty words. They used to be possibly words that were positive, like liberal used to mean something to the effect of liberty and an openness towards other people, and then it became a nasty word, or socialist, or there's so many words that are being co-opted right now and redefined. And is that the way we want to allow things to happen? Because, you know, when we use words to make them a battering ram for someone so we can shame them and embarrass them and then make them into somebody that is less desirable, we basically are using words to manipulate rather than heal. So there's a lot going on this planet, and we wanted to address some of this with mental health and some of the other things that I was talking about. So I'm just going to open it up to Patricia to start in, and we're going to have a discussion, and then Patricia will be bringing some of the ideas she has according to Indigenous protocol on how to start healing this and how to start seeing yourself in relationship to culture and to the true nature that you have. So I would love to introduce Patricia, and I would like her to introduce herself. Thank you, Patricia.
It's really wonderful to see all of you here and to know that we also have an audience of women on the live stream. I want to thank you for this invitation, and it's very important for us to co-facilitate, Mari, on all of this topics that you have brought forward and articulated in a very detailed way. I'm co-facilitating with you today, and I will follow your lead in this discussion and in the answer and question part of the workshop. And we will dialogue also as this teaching unfolds according to the interests also of the participants. And before I introduce myself, I'll just bridge here with one of the word that I'm very disturbed by, that it's being used even by African Americans and European Americans in the news, in the media, is the word tribal. And tribal, to tribal people, is a word used for social cohesiveness, our interrelatedness, our interconnectedness through our communication and relationship, symbolized and spoken, affirmed as you said, all my relations. And tribal has now become inverse word to describe people who are, it's really a projection of the people who are using it accordingly in a derogatory way, to say that tribal people are primitive and savage and perpetuating conflict and fighting and warfare is all now connotated in the word tribal. So I make that distinction to reframe it into the affirmative from where it originates. And that is that our sisterhood and our brotherhood, our healthy helping communication between the intergenerations, between elder and youth, to bridge this indigenous wisdom and knowledge. Now I will introduce myself in the Dene tradition. Ya'at e shik e shidane an also. Beloved relatives, my spiritual family, everything that is good, beautiful, and true for children, parents, for grandparents, for families, for communities, and especially the healing of nations is all that I speak. That is the meaning of Ya'ate Shik'e Shidane. That is all I speak. And especially for the healing of nations, the governing systems. I greet you with a loving heart-to-heart hug from my ceremonial fireplace to the hearth of your homes, and a symbol of spiritual, humane, family love. I'm born of the Mississippi Band of the Mississippi Band of Choctaw. And I'm born for the Tachitni and the Kia'ani authentic medicine people of the Dene Nation and original people of Turtle Island. We call ourselves Dene, holy people, and thus I affirm here, the Yin Dene Biyaja Nshle. I am a precious child of the holy people, Ado Nihi Gle. And also we are each a precious child of Creator within the natural order of the laws of creation that govern all of us equally. This is the fundamental basis of equality. Love and peace eternally exists within us and around us in a spiritually inclusive and all-encompassing oneness that we call Hojo. And so now I will ask if it's an appropriate time for the video, or would you like for me to speak about the eagle medicine really briefly here, Mari?
Really quickly, I'd like to comment one more comment about word use, because originally when the indigenous people in any country were identified, they were called primitive. And primitive became used as a way of saying they don't know anything, we have to govern them, they're like little children and they don't know anything, we're the learned ones. And if you look at the actual basis of primitive and that word, it means prime. And what is prime? It means the original guiding force, the original force that is in harmony with the divine. But the word was usurped to mean something childish, something that doesn't get it, something that we have to govern over, something we have to straighten over. So when we start looking at all these things, we start appreciating what was the actuality of the word. And that's happening a lot right now in the culture. But what's happening a lot is we're redefining all sorts of things that had definitions for 50,000 years. And instead of making a new definition, we're taking and redefining things so we can basically mess with those definitions. What that is doing is creating crazy making, because it takes and it reorients people so they don't know what's up and down anymore. So I do want to keep on reemphasizing this a little bit, because this is one of the primary ways that people gain control over situations.
Yeah, I might add the word backward too. And specifically in the Western literature, primitive identifies people that did not have a written language, because at some point in European history, they initiated the belief that if you write something down, then it makes it true. So that's the black ink on white paper of all the documents that are justifying conquest and power over with brute force and deception.
And something really interesting about saying that too is, there is also the possibility that in the writing down of it, and like you said, it could be, the writing down could be twisted and tainted and changed and written according to someone's agenda and then spread that. But because of some of this, the fact that we've replaced writing down with the memory of the past and the teachings, then the European peoples don't really have access or a memory of most of their teachings anymore. They don't have something intrinsic. They've been taught to abdicate that for this written word that was agenda, made an agenda. And now we have in Texas, we have people saying that we're going to take out Martin Luther King, we're going to take out Native peoples, we're going to take women out of all the textbooks. So not only do we have the textbooks that were written in a specific way to get us to believe a certain thing, leaving out other people's histories, but now we're even taking out, quote unquote, our own whitewashed history. So those peoples are not part of it. So that gets really interesting really quickly to see this whole thing uncovering itself.
Would you like to listen to the video, and we could give time for people to reflect and think about what we're proposing here?
Sure, that sounds like a great
and
idea.
then I could follow up with the teaching of the birth of the baby eagle.
Okay, excellent. As a caveat, I did some benefits with Floyd, and he did a lot of work for Indigenous people and to spread understandings about all the things that were happening in the government, all the things that were happening with Indigenous people. But he also was interested in chemtrails and all sorts of things. We were going to actually do a program together on that. And this is part of what we're going to be talking about some of the pollution that's going on in this planet and what it's creating on the planet. So as a caveat, this is kind of the perfect video for this workshop.
Well, let me ask you first, you had mentioned that this crazy making Did you want to move into the discussion first about just bringing forth the psychotropic, the psychology, conventional establishment ways of unhealthy helping by keeping people the way they are and
Absolutely.
trapped and entrenched in a thinking system that promotes psychotropic drugs. And now we see the also the psychedelic revolution. And at some point, I'll speak to the ego medicine.
Yeah. I would like us to address definitely what's happening with our youth, and also different people have been brought into this system to think that a pill will fix it, that it's not the way we're living that is creating the problem, rather that we should see everything as a symptom to be corrected with some medication, so we can basically feed the drug industry and feed an industry. So I'd love you to comment about some of that and what your findings are, and if later, if Cynthia and Auntie Molly or anyone has anything to say on that, that are our representatives, that'd be great.
I'll just say this briefly and we'll open it up to people's comments or insights or questions. People do not know this. Listen carefully what I'm going to say, because it is very twisted. And I have spent, it took me 6 years to get a four-year degree in the clinical child psychology from University of Arizona, which is basically like dream theory. It's personality theory. I studied mostly Carl Jung and his compensatory dream theory and so on. And my whole life is in psychology. Made it to a doctorate in clinical psychology and didn't finish. The money resource was not there for me to finish at that time. So this is the main thing that people do not know. Let me see how I'm going to present this in a very simple way. In psychology, what is called mental wellness, mental health. Okay, what is called mental health? This is the language used, something like the MMPI, Minnesota Personality Inventory. It's a test, and it's a test to understand someone's, what they call ego strength. So what they're calling in psychology ego strength is actually the it's actually twisted. It's actually the maladaptive emotions of, when I say inverse, I'm talking about being socially engineered at a systems level and socially conditioned and programmed at an individual and society level, not only in the schooling system, to take out all our creativity, our intuition, our creative imagination. It's just focused on left brain thinking. So it introduces dualistic thinking, which is which pits us one against the other. So to me, it's a way of telling people that by this test, this Minnesota personality inventory, to measure ego strength is to say that mental health is how well we are engineered and conditioned and programmed to the systems that set us up to fail and then blame us and then collect, which is artificially introducing dysfunctional families and also homelessness, hunger, poverty, incarceration, and so-called mental illness. Now I'm undoing this. I'm untwisting it, because people don't know that in order to get the degree at a bachelor's level, at a master's level, and at a doctorate level, is to buy into this language that demonizes people who are spiritually awakening, who are spiritually awake, and who are using their whole brain thinking and their intuition and their creative imagination. They are identified as hallucinating in order to justify the psychotropic medication. It's not medicine, it's prescription drugs for anxiety, for bipolar, for so-called psychosis and clinical depression, what we call post-traumatic stress syndrome. And so it's a profession that inverses the spiritually healthy people who are visionaries, who are diagnosticians, who are seers, who are whole brain thinkers, and categorizing them in institutions to be told that they must take this prescription drug for the rest of their life. And what it does is it lowers a person's vibration into a state where a person cannot do their dream work. You know, the dreams that are visionary, that are premonitions, that are a precaution, a warning dream. We cannot do our dream work under the influence and at a lowered vibration of these psychotropic drugs, prescription drugs. So I hope that you get the point that when I use the word inverse, it gets twisted to identify mentally healthy people who are spiritually awake and make them the problem. And then to reward in the trade and commerce system, in a trade and commerce language, to monetize and to benefit in the stock market, big pharma, that people are who can be engineered, conditioned, and programmed into the system of, for example, people of color and women. We must agree to lose and pay to lose in the system, and that's considered mental health and ego strength. And so that's what I wanted to bring out, because that is so many generations of people who have been identified as captured into this bondage and slavery. That is a profession of categorizing people and in such a way to benefit from these people, while diagnosing people in these categories as being mentally ill, when that is not the case. So I'm going to leave it right there. And I very seldom ever have opportunity to express this and to get it across, because what it does to my brain as I lay it as I say it, linear, sequential in English, to undo this mega spell of twisting in order to take people's money and identify them as mentally ill. And I know this from my indigenous ceremonial language because we don't have words for mental illness. We have very specific words that are affirmative of our spiritual gifts and our genius and our holy thinking and whole brain thinking and conscience and our clear and congruent thinking. And so that's how I could get through this and be able to make this distinction, that I could articulate that to this audience today. I'll leave it right there.
Yeah, Patricia, this is an incredible thing to notice for everyone, I really have to say, because we have been shamed and we have been diagnosed into thinking that what we know internally is not where it's at, and that we are sick. As an example, of course, one would be depressed to live in a world where everyone has to fight to survive, and some people go up and some people go down, and only certain people win, and there's no nest to hold you. And it's not all for one, all for one and one for all. That we're all working on this together, rather than a few individuals plummet if anything happens to them. What kind of sickness is it to say one person is better than another, and that we all as a community can't hold each other? And when that's happening, of course somebody's depressing their energy or depression. And so, of course, you're depressing the energy in you and trying to hold it back because your heart is breaking inside, that there's no caring, that there's seemingly nothing you can hold on to if you have a problem. There's seemingly no one to support you, maybe just a few quote unquote family members, and some of them won't support you anyway because they're busy grabbing for something in the family to get the inheritance or who knows what. Everybody's setting each other up to fail, as you say. So of course we're going to be depressed about the way we're living, because this is not the way to live. And we know this in our heart and spirit. And so to then get labeled as a deviant, or somebody that doesn't want to work, or somebody that doesn't want to do certain kinds of things that are against their spirit and their soul. Oh no, you have to lie, you have to cheat, you have to do this just to get over. You have to put out these weird television programs because you work for this company. You have to do what they say, instead of being free enough to really work together and to call out the truth and the lie. And then you're afraid that you can't call out the lie and things like this. Of course, we are depressed because we're depressing our true nature.
Yes. So you're speaking of the lack of a container, what is called a context, a container for understanding. And this container context is existing in the spiritual realm. There's no time and space, and temporal time and eternal time is interconnected. It's not dualistic or separated. There is no such thing as hallucination. People are actually seeing into the astral plane. So there's no such thing when they say, I know what is the true reality and you don't, and you're hallucinating. the person is seeing into the astral plane with no context for understanding what they're seeing. And what they're seeing in the astral plane is not a spiritual plane. It is a place of all humanity's misqualifying energies, misunderstanding, and miscreation of our thoughts and feelings that become things because energy follows thought. And they're stored in the astral plane, which is then our karmic consequence that we ourselves are supposed to cleanse and purify. And when we know better, we do better. And so then the other extreme, I'll just leave it there and anybody can pick up from there. Then it goes, it overcompensates to the psychedelic, so-called psychedelic, quote, revolution, where then people want to use what they're calling them psychedelic medicine. And then they don't have a context. Again, they have no container. There's no language. There's no guidance. There's no understanding. It's just, there's no safety in this. It's becoming taken over by corporations, in which then to enslave humanity again in terms of the monetizing it and putting people in danger, even though people are saying they're benefiting by it. That's like a free for all, when in fact you'll see that the indigenous ceremonial change process is using our built-in whole brain thinking and our conscience. And it's for all of us to use to discern and make decisions, which are, there's only two intentions, either destructive and death producing or constructive and life affirming. And that's the simplicity of it. There's no secret whatsoever in indigenous wisdom and culture. It's just straightforward diagnostic. Tribal languages, ceremonial tribal language is diagnostic. It's descriptive, and it just defines what is out of balance, that we come in and say, these are the symptoms. Let's go to the root cause and let's deconstruct it. And there we are. We're using our own built-in faculties for what they're for, to choose the creative solutions, to design them, and to have group consensus without introducing argument, debate, or crazy making, or anything that is just not necessary. In a simple yes and no pathway.
Yes, we're going to get into a lot more of what she's talking about a little bit later, but I want to chime in about the psychotropics and the psychedelics a little tiny bit before I go over to Cynthia, because Cynthia is a counselor, and she sees a lot of people coming in that are suicidal, and so I want to just take that up a little bit. But when I was in Peru, I met with a lot of the medicine people there, and they were talking to me and telling me that a lot of the people that are doing ceremony over there, they've kind of usurped it, and some of these people are quote unquote dark entities now, or sorcerers, whatever you want to say, and usurping some of the people. So first of all, if you haven't grown up in that context of a container of the culture, you don't fully understand the relationship of the psychedelic to you, and you don't understand its context in nature, first of all. There's a lot of teachings that go on, and the teachings have been handed down for a long time. So we, as a colonialist, capitalist person that goes over there that wants to just get high or do all sorts of things, the original premise is that you're supposed to consult the plant to see if you're supposed to do it, not you decide as an ego being or coming from a place of out of balanceness that you will partake in the plant. And the second thing is, because it's become this big money maker where people are charging now up to $4,000, $5,000, there all these agendas start happening, like people in different countries will start telling people that, oh, you're a medicine person too, and you can do this and that. And so they set up this pipeline so that people will take psychedelics and have these trips, but they don't have any, like Patricia says, nest or any footing to get advice on how to go through it. They don't understand the context of being in relationship to the land. They did not ask the plant if they should be doing it all. They did not get a calling to do this. It's just being made, a decision's being made because it's the thing to do. It's kitsch. It's like everybody's doing it. And the question is the plant in that context really being honest with you? Are you being taken for a ride? Is this the right thing? And also, are you being harnessed for your energy by this other person that wants to try to make money from you? And the elders told me that this is a big deal right now. And I know somebody at UCLA, and the guy, excuse me, not UCLA, but USC Medical, and they're starting to harness it for medicine, like a white person can diagnose that has no context of working with the plant. I will venture to say that is a little bit misguided, that someone that does not have relationship with the forest and the plant and does not have that cultural come from, it's not something to be used. It is something to be in relationship with. So I do want to really warn people that we're thinking in the wrong way, and that's creating a usury idea where you use things for your benefit. And the reason we're in this scrape in the world is we're using things thinking that we are not in relationship and we are separate, and everything becomes something for our ego to use. So I want to bring Cynthia in real quickly.
Let me add one thing.
Oh, yeah.
Or two things. We don't know the language where it comes from either. We don't know the context of the language of the tradition it comes from. And then we're seeking, I was talking just before you, that we're, rather than being taught to self-reflect with our own capabilities that are already built within us, not seeking outside something ingestive, otherworldly, just those two things.
I want to say actually one more thing now that you said that, because this is really important and nobody's going to like it. Sorry. But let's get real, people. So we have a Mongolian word, shaman, okay? It's not really that exact word, but that's the English equivalent. And everybody wants to be like a shaman. And why? Because that, for us in our mind, holds power. So instead of what Patricia just said, going into our own knowing, going into our own lineages, going into our own ways of doing things, we try to usurp the word and project on that group of people that we're doing what they're actually doing. So we're doing a drum journey. Oh, I'm a shaman. And why am I a shaman? I'm a shaman because I'm projecting on the Mongolians that they're doing just what I'm doing. But did I go to train with them? Did I go to ask them? whether I'm that. So why aren't we taking our words back? And why do we have to be something we identify as powerful just to feel good about ourselves, to feel special? There is another possibility. And that is not to usurp other people's words, but to find the powerful connection of ourselves with source and actualize that in our world and honor that, and not have to stereotype things and project on other groups of people, and thereby taking their word and making it what we think it is. So we take the power out of their word and then we make them like us. This is not truth. It's not truth. So I will pass to Cynthia.
Thank you, Grandmother Mari. I've worked as a counselor with university students for about 15 years now, and one thing I've really began to see is they're really stuck with this intense emotional distress, and a lot of it then is related to their being educated and their awakening to all of the um, harm that has been caused by our white supremacist colonialist system, and and they call themselves Gen Dread for a reason. Also, that that we're the horrors of what we're doing to the planet, and there's a lack of feeling of trust of that there's going to be a planet left for them to live on, or also a lack of trust that there's a community that really cares, that they'll be cared for. And and they're at one point they're getting these messages of, oh, you live in America, you have such privilege, and you go to college, and what you have nothing to complain about, you should be fine. But they're in such intense emotional distress, and they know something is wrong, but they can't put their finger on it. Like, why do I feel this way? My bills are paid, my parents are sending me to school, but I'm absolutely miserable, and it's very hard for them to make sense of it. But you know uh, and I've just been over time realizing that it's a very sane response to an insane world that we live in, and all you have to do is turn on the news every day, and it makes anyone traumatized. um
Yeah.
and I wanted to share just a very few statistics that really struck me about the United States and our healthcare system. So there was a study of 11 considered high income countries, and United States had the highest spending on healthcare. Yet there's no guaranteed healthcare for everyone, and we had some of the poorest mental health outcomes despite all this money that's spent on healthcare. And for the age group that I work with, young adolescent to young adults, one of their highest causes of death is suicide, and it's really an epidemic. And the United States, in terms of physical violence, was an outlier, was 7 times as high than the next country. I forget which one it was, but they weren't even in the same stratosphere. And I think part of this is our healthcare system, yes, is based on profit, not based on the well-being of every single person in our country. And so where is all this money going to? It's an insane system. But thank you.
Thank you. I'd actually like Patricia to comment after I say a few things, because I know a little bit about this situation, which is some of the institutions are also putting people through these through this quick fix situation where you only can see them a very few amount of time and they expect to get you through the pipeline. Oh, just get it over with. See them once or twice, maybe 3 times max, and then get them out the door and then go on to the next person. It's not seen as something to really allow the person to sink into. It's seen as just make your quota, get the money, and get them out the door. That's the first thing. And then Cynthia was telling me that a lot of providers now are not even taking insurance, so you have to go out of pocket. So not only are you expected to pay for insurance in this crazy thing, but suddenly you can't even go see anybody because you're expected to pay for insurance, but then that provider doesn't take insurance anymore. And
Yep.
I know that Patricia has a lot to say about the way healthcare is initiated and how it's set up in this society. So,
Do you want me to can I comment on that briefly?
yeah.
Oh, of course.
Thank you. Because I was recently looking for a specialist and mine had left the state. Many people are leaving my state because of the low reimbursement rates, and many providers are stopping to take insurance at all because it's not profitable. They don't feel it's worth taking. And I was told, well, your provider moved to Utah. You should follow them. It's like I can just go pick up my life and leave just because my doctor did. and I was recently taken by ambulance to the emergency room, and I was talking with the EMT, and I was shocked at what she shared with me. She said she was so distraught by how she was treated on the road that drivers are even even worse and more difficult and cause more problems when she's in the ambulance than when she's not, which is insane. That people get really angry at her and cut her off and like, why aren't you wanting to help your fellow man? Get out of the way. There really is a problem here.
Well, Cynthia, what we're calling healthcare really is pain and disease sickness management. It is not really wellness restoration. And really briefly about the origins of the root cause of why it is. I was just thinking of a book that I have in my bookcase from psychology class that informed us about Rockefeller in the early 19th century derailed the medical school and the medical students to pharmaceuticals. That's the origin of it. And he spent something like 37 million derailing the medical school to the stock market and to what we call now today in a crisis level big pharma. So that was the first original, whatever his name was, Rockefeller, to take the oath, which says do no harm. And this I have this book here. I can't quote it right off the top of my head right now. However, the original is based on was called it was called it's the real true medicine is not, it's what we teach each other and what we know works. That's really what healthcare is, because it's wellness. And it's not based on, they might say that it's not based on research and it's not scientific and so on. So let me just go to this point. When we say healthcare delivery system, then we have the healthcare provider. Now, I worked in health and human services for 20 years as an administrator, a grant writer, a planner, the whole continuum of care from outreach to rehab and so on to aftercare, prevention, behavioral health, mental health, social services, handle federal, state, county, and tribal contracts for client service accountability. I know it doesn't work and why it doesn't work, and all of those millions, how it goes through the healthcare delivery system, because the healthcare provider is the one who is, that's where the money path is back into the system, because the healthcare provider is in charge of your health or sickness outcome. And the patient is not in charge of their own health or disease outcome. That's where it's at right there. That we're just turn ourselves over to the system to experiment on us and to even have all of the side effects that are even death-threatening. And so that's just really a brief description of the root cause of why it doesn't work, and it's designed not to work. It's designed for the healthcare delivery system and the healthcare provider for those monies to be recycled back to the back to private industry through contracting. Everything is through contracting through corporations. So what do we do about it? We teach, like we are here, that we're capable, the true medicine, and we can say that it's not trite. The love within us and around us, the peace within us and around us is the true medicine for everything. That's what rebalances us within our sacred self and our sacred place in the universe. That power within to have power with others, because we're talking about a betrayal story, that humanity took that path of betrayal to betray creator maker and betray ourselves and betray others and become fear-based. And the only solution to fear is that it's a call for love. They cannot coexist. And we can teach ourselves all the capabilities that are built within us to use them for its appropriate function. How do we know that it works? Well, it's using our conscience of what we know is, we can discern as destructive and death producing or constructive and life affirming. And that's when I said we have to learn to say yes or no. When somebody asked me about, will there ever be peace in the world? And I said, we have to say yes. Collectively, we have to say yes to love and peace within us, around us. We have to make that decision, and then we have to act on it. And it's yes or no. And why are we denying that? And why are we defiant in our denial of that? That's a values clarification question.
Shresha, I'd like to interject real quick because you
Sure,
said,
I'm done right there with that.
oh, good, perfect.
Um,
You said something really powerful, two things. First of all, we've been taught to abdicate our power. So you're saying the doctors they're taking over our care and stuff in the society. We've been taught that we can't do anything, that we have to wait for daddy or whoever it is, Biden, it could be anybody, right? To legislate something or do something for us. We've been taught that we are powerless. We also we were taught that we are sinners and we can't get out of that little, that everything we do is, comes from sin, that woman comes from sin. We've been taught that we can't make a difference, that the powers that be are the authority. And so in a way, we're abdicating our power over to that. And that is something that we need to start looking at, on whether, like you said, we want to say yes to peace. We want to say yes to creating a new world, instead of think that all these other things that they've set up for us, like AI, we could go on and on, cell phones, radiation, polluting the water, that they're inevitable because somebody outside, an outside authority, has determined for us that the way the world is going to wag is this way, rather than we're going to wag it. And this might sound simplistic, like, oh, Mari, well, yeah, I'm going to try to do that, but look at all these other people. No, we need to literally spread the word. And we're going to be talking about how to reframe, as Patricia goes on, how to reframe our mindset, our understanding, our heart set, and find out who we are truly, rather than the sinners that we've been told we are. Is that belief system really supporting us? And where does that belief system come from? And how do we take this power back? How do we take the power in our lives back and not abdicate? So I think some of what you're bringing up here is the crux of a very powerful conversation internally and together on how we can change things. And then we can start, when we start looking at this, because, you know, there's so many people doing things, dumping pollution in the water, making decisions that we're going to have cell phones, making decisions that all the electronics are obsolete, so you have to buy a new computer, a new cell phone, over and over and over and over, instead of saying no. And saying no there might be a way to do that, where we can change things very in a different way, where we're not necessarily going head to head like rams on each other. So I'm just going to bring that up, and I'm going to hand back to Patricia.
Well, we all know that people promote this idea, quote, it's the human condition. Well, the human condition is normalized pathology. Pathology only just means any and every out of balance condition that we've named and more. So that's just totally not true. It's just unacceptable. That is not the human condition, because we have been socially engineered and conditioned and programmed to believe. We believe that we're born into a deficient self-image. So I could go in detail there about the fact that I'll mention here that there's these choices, and then I'll name four choices, and then I'll name four things that don't work, and then we can move on and see who else has comments or questions. There's suicide. People do turn on themselves. Not the creator doesn't kill anybody, allow anybody to kill themselves. The creator doesn't destroy its own creation. It's the vibration that's lowered to the level of entity spirits can enter the body and kill the person. So that's one choice, but maybe it's not one's personal choice, but one is caught up in that belief that there's no solution by external oppression, internalized oppression, depression, and immobilize, and believing there's no solution, and it's not true. And that's where we need to teach people it's not true. There's always a way. The other one is homicide. That's okay. I will destroy someone else. So we know that suicide, homicide also is war. And that's warfare. It's a suicide, homicide pack. And then there's disease. Okay, we don't cry and talk about it. We don't. The emptying phase is to talk, cry, drum, sing, dance, vomit, sweat, any way that we get this maladaptive emotions out of our body, instead of stuffing them in the body until something grows, and then we have a medically diagnosed disease. So suicide, homicide, disease. This decision making that I'm teaching is a sequencing in which then we just discern through what do we value and what do we cherish, yes or no. It's destructive and death producing, or it's constructive and life affirming. Now, we all know from centuries and centuries and generation, violence does not work, and it will never work. And yet violence is escalating. We're depending and we're funding and putting our resource into violence. It doesn't work. And we're not even acknowledging that. Resistance doesn't work. We hear people of color and indigenous people, native people saying resistance to the system. Well, resistance is actually affirming that the system that is not good for us, that it exists, and that we're against it and we're going to resist it. So you see the twistedness there. It doesn't work either, because we're validating and fighting something that's going to have an equal and opposite effect back on us. Because you're against something, there's an equal and opposite force back. So to resist something is to validate something that we don't like or want. And when we do that, then we're actually possessed by this resistance. So resistance doesn't work. The other one is acculturation, because the technical word assimilation refers to we befriend each other. We don't do enemy creation. We don't devalue and dehumanize people. We befriend each other, and we learn each other's language and culture and foods. That's assimilation. But acculturation is that there's one dominant race that has all the answers and that imposes upon us. There's only one right way, and now we're dealing with this nationalism and fascism, global fascism, of this one world mentality that says we must do away with we must no longer keep up separation of church and state, but we must have this one right way, that we are all going to be, there's going to be a hero savior to humanity when we acquiesce to this deficient self-image, that we're born something wrong with us, and there's this external remediation to remediate us out of our primitiveness, or for our personal salvation or redemption, or some way that we're deficient. That is acculturation. So that's not working right now. So acculturation and conversion means to take away, okay, now I'm not let's say I'm not a Christian Reform Abrahamic tradition, and I became a Buddhist, I became a Zen, I became a Hindu. That is a conversion process. It's like exchanging one for another. Sometimes it's exchanging one illusion for another illusion, and we're projecting the war within us and projecting that outward. And so I'll stop there about the things that don't work, and then I could listen to what someone thinks about that and how we want to move on here.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you're citing, that we are taking and having to fit ourselves, or think we have to fit ourselves into a mold or an idea of a a religion or a specific thing rather than just finding the truth. And so if we don't accept all the tenets of something, suddenly we become the outcast. Then we become, maybe we want part of it because it feels right. But so it's a locus of control to have to fit yourself into the tenets of something rather than the exploratory process of being present on a second to second basis and applying it to your being as spirit comes through you to inform you directly. And then to pit different belief systems against each other, like the mind knows everything, like all these concepts are actually 100% real rather than delusionary. So that's a beautiful description that you gave, Patricia, because it's not to say nothing's powerful in religion or spirituality, but it's to say, how does having to fit ourselves into all these constructs work? So if we don't accept every single thing because it doesn't feel right, like I had posted something on my Facebook, and one minister came in and said, well, it says that we have to kill all the gay people because it's in the Bible or this or that. We know on a visceral level that if we were to take out a knife and literally kill someone, that something in us will not feel right. I mean, that is, so to instead have a concept of something and act against your true understanding and knowing from an internal level seems contrary, because the internal being was originally routed to its primordial blueprint, as you speak about sometimes, Patricia. So I really like what you're talking about here.
Does anybody have questions or comments or insights and want to bring that forward here?
Freda, you have a question or you want to say something?
What are you thinking?
Thank you, Grandmother Patricia. I would really like to go all the way back to the beginning of your presentation with a question. I'm going there because, I mean, all the other things that have been discussed in terms of what's wrong with the society and expectations, I mean, this, I think we all, most of us are aware of. And first, I want to thank you for clarifying everything I've experienced. I mean, your entire discussion of what the mental health system talks about as problematical. It just, every single word was personally resonant in my own experience. So just very briefly, as a person who since early, as far back as I can remember as a child, has seen things that other people don't see and tried to express it, and then tried to learn how to hide that and to fit in. So, you know, I've been managing this all my life. And at the same time, because of it, being called to starting very young, and not just from me, but the influences of people around me, becoming aware of the need to fight for Indigenous rights and the rights of all people and all beings, not just human. But at a certain point, after being an activist and motivated you know, through my life and rejecting society's requirements, you know, not going the path of the regular job, income, etc., in order to go my own way. You know, as you get older, beginning to succumb to helplessness, hopelessness, you know, all of those self-harmful, I mean, I didn't do physical self-harm, but all of that questioning what's wrong with me, and going the route of therapy and having, you know, exactly what you said, finding therapists trying to adjust me to a very sick world, which I couldn't agree with, and going through the medications that numb you for a while, that, you know, eventually I did find someone, I did stabilize on some medications, and the help they provided was, without them, I became so depressed that I couldn't engage anymore. You know, I was immobilized with what people are doing, what's happening to the earth. When I say I recognize I'm older, you know, global warming as a problem in 1960, you know, it's like watching everyone ignore and watching the fighting and the violence and everything. And, you know, I now find myself wanting to not depend on drugs, but in fact, they allow me to continue functioning. They don't completely interfere with my seeing, with my abilities, although I'm sure it would be better without them. But even though I manage, there's a bigger, I'm not just asking a question for myself. Everything, Grandmother Patricia, that you're talking about, the existence of these problems, I come to these meetings and other meetings like this, and I'm very involved in a lot of environmental organizations that meet so that I can connect with other people and not feel like I'm totally alone. And I am privileged to live on land, on wild land that I care for. And so I can maintain my personal spiritual connection and have my communication directly, which is, I don't do things intellectually, but still, I'm alone in my own house with my own healthcare, you know, health difficulties, need for community, wish to join with other people. Exactly what you're talking about, this need that we need to be living in communities. And I reach out around me, but, you know, to tell you that rural upstate New York and a lot of rural America is not of this frame of mind. They're more of the, you know, the what generally goes for, I don't want to use words to characterize, so that there is no possibility to enter into community with people because of where I am, and I cannot leave my land.
Yeah.
It's not my land. I belong to it. And without me here, I can't help heal it. And so what I'm looking for in not just this, and I'm not looking for, again, I'm not looking for an answer for me. It's like, I would like to see the whole discussion go beyond what's wrong and how we can create this space where we can empower each other, heal each other, support each other, so that we can continue and we can heal and we can gain strength and we can make change for the better. So I think I've spoken enough. I thank you for listening. And I thank you for being here and offering your wisdom.
Well, thank you very much for speaking your truth. And I'm in the Southwest, and I'm in southern New Mexico, and I'm 77, going to be 78 this year. And I am also 3 hours from the Navajo reservation where I was born and grew up, and family, and I'm also facing similar isolation and so on that you're speaking of. And I know many elders who are in this situation where the society we haven't promoted communal living. We've promoted divisiveness and conflict rather than family, like 3 generations in one family, and then extended family, and then community. That is the ideal. And yes, we're going to speak to that. We're going to move on to speak to that. But let me just say that people that see energy, we're actually seeing faster. We see fast. We're seeing faster. So people that see objects are seeing slower because they're seeing objects, and we're seeing energy, and we're seeing how energy affects us and how it interferes, or how it's connected and so on. So that's what is not being validated by the system at all. And besides our basic needs, yes, people object to saying, well, we don't want to talk about the negative. We don't want to talk about what's wrong because we all know what's wrong. In ceremonial, when we name and we have a witness, we are deconstructing right now. We have deconstructed everything that we have talked about. That is a ceremonial process. When you speak it and speak the truth, and you identify the root cause, and you have witness, we're doing this at a mass media level. The vibration is going into the etheric network. It's going into the network of life. And so it's mass healing using the mass media and the electronics. So even if we're at home sitting and we're thinking all these good things, we are affecting we're taking down these monster thought forms. We are doing that collectively, like you pull the edge of a sweater and you unravel it. We're doing that right now because spiritual energy is faster than the speed of light. And guess what? The whole universe is supporting us because that is the law of the universe that we're existing within. And so when we just have our intention aligned with the universe and the power within us to have power with each other, even on the screen, this is a revolutionary way, a reverent revolution, meaning that no longer are we supporting the system for resources to go from the bottom to the top, from the poor to the rich, but this is cross-culturally and intergenerationally. So that's from elder to youth and all the generations. So this is what we're calling a living ceremony. And a refrain process just means to use our thinking for what it's for and carry out our conversation accordingly. And so we have needs for affection. We have needs, of course, our basic needs are food, shelter, and clothing and safety, to be warm, to be safe, to have something to eat and water. And those aren't being provided by the system that's governing us. But the man-made system doesn't have power over the spiritual realm that has the power of abundance and plenitude for us to acknowledge and affirm and bring into manifestation by our speaking it, by our intending it in our personal life, and then collectively together, because that is the natural law order of the fundamental basis of equality that we're born into, and that's what we're using. That's why Mari and I and Ingrid, who is making this all happen, and the Sign Network, the platform, understands this greater, we're a spark of divinity and a light within a greater light. And so you're part of this when you speak your truth, and we acknowledge that we are undoing this, we are deconstructing it, we are dismantling it, and we're saying, let's just be humane beings, all the while that we're existing in this realm, because it's the only reality there is, and truth is the only reality there is. It's the only reality, and truth is our protection. So thank you for speaking your truth and contributing to this wellness restoration, because it's the tool that we have in our times, contemporary times, that we're not alone.
So if I may just ask for a little more of your wisdom in terms of, I think, the most harmful, emotionally harmful and destabilizing aspect of the apparent world
Yes.
is watching what is happening to the earth in terms of climate destabilization. And I'm not talking, I avoid news. I don't watch or listen to news or watch those things. I'm just on the land, you know, I can see it and feel it and hear it from the trees and the water. And the suffering when you're aware of the changes upon the earth and the suffering of the beings, which includes people and the animals, the birds, the trees. I hear you when you speak of the true reality on the spiritual plane, but for a person like me whose spirituality is very much locked within my relationship to the land, how to find, how to not succumb to grief for the earth and a feeling of powerlessness, which is really, you know, the foundation of that depression, suffering, etc.
You're asking what every one of us are asking for, the same thing. We're asking that we that we are free from this trauma bonding, that it's a transgenerational, from generation to generation, that we're born into this woundedness and this trauma bonding. And we're saying, no, enough, stop. We can choose, we're choosing wellness, restoration. And we're affirming that. And we're speaking that, because we're intending that, and we're accountable to our own soul ultimately. So to focus within and to our own soul accountability to creator and maker. We all need belonging. We all need comforting. And there's a place within that sanctuary within us that there is love and peace in the chemistry and alchemy of our body chemistry and our brain synapse. And that is joy. And that's the joy of knowing that our body is of the Mother Earth. We are composed of 72% water within us. We are a vessel, and we're traveling our spiritual life journey in this vessel of water with all the nutrients in it. And our brain synapse, that joy is what we call serotonin and dopamine and catecholamines. Those aren't the words to use. It's the joy within the alchemy and the chemistry of our brain synapse and the receptors and the firing. And so we have that fire within our heart. So that's fire energy, is temperature. And then we have the air, which is Creator's sacred breath that's our in-breath and out-breath. So that's where our belonging and our comfort is, in our own sanctuary, our habitat, our home is our own body upon the Mother Earth, which is the earth element, and then a water element, and the oceans and rivers and streams, lakes and male and female rain, as well as the radiant sun is the fire, and the fire in our fireplace, and the lights are also electricity in the home, in our spine. So we're a part of this. We're not outside of or separate from it. And the sacred breath that we're using is not our breath, it's life itself. It's living. We're embodying the whole universe, and we're in it and of it. We're not in and of this other, what we're deconstructing right now. We're naming it, and then we're identifying the root cause. So we're saying it cannot exist because this is who we really are. This is our true constitution. And as such, then we are in our wellness restoration ceremony. That's the purpose of why we're where we're at right now in this sequencing here. So I can finish just if anyone else has anything to say or ask, I could finish there's 4 things that we need to know. And when we know, like going to get x-rays and blood tests, or going to the mechanic, and why doesn't this vehicle doesn't run, and we get a diagnostic. There's just 4 more things, and then I could move into that eagle medicine. If you're ready, Mari, and other.
Yeah, I'd like to add a little tiny bit to that before you move into that.
Sure.
First of all, in the discussion we're having of what's real, which is what Patricia just said, part of her teaching goes into the fact that when we're not in the space of understanding the actuality of creation, we're in a denial. So thinking that things are outside of us, or a lot of things that we've been taught, where we feel we're separate, we feel that we're sinners, we feel all sorts of things that have been kind of maybe indoctrinated into us. The thing is, and what Patricia said, when you start to uncover this, the true nature of yourself, then you start walking with it, and you start broadcasting it to others whenever you talk to them. You start refabricating the ideas so they're in alignment with the truth of nature, of our nature, our true nature. The other thing about what I've been doing, and what Living Ceremony and the elders have been doing, is we're going to start also moving into how can we, granted, we have to, at this point, to some degree, live. And so we have to walk both worlds in a sense, even though that one world is delusionary and it's a projection of all this stuff, energy creation, enemy creation and all sorts of things. But seeing that, we can start working together on maybe projects and different kinds of things where we can start teaching people to work in community, how to set up communities possibly with each other. I have some environmental lawyers that are going to start working on some things. I have some person that builds dome housing, and we're all starting to conceive of how can we repattern things according to the actual pattern of nature, like permaculture and different kinds of things. And as we have these conversations, we can work together. We can also, obviously hone ourselves so we are in the space of knowing the truth, and then bring those true things into existence with each other and for each other. So I just wanted to say that that's what this group is interested in, besides our complete just rehoning ourselves. But honestly, the work that Patricia's talking about the rehoning of ourselves, and it's the ground for which the true actions take place. So we need to start with the diagnostics, and we need to start with all that so we can create that. But as we discuss together, we can start, coming up with creative solutions that might be able to start remedying some of this very quickly. Even I don't think we can put it past ourselves that some of this could happen rather quickly. And not to think that we're small, not to think that, because we are the arms and the hands and the heart of Creator in action when we get those impetuses. And also to, when we talk together, we can clarify what might be erroneous in our thinking. So we can make sure we're on the page of the real truth, So anyway, I'm handing it back to you, Patricia.
Well, the solution regarding Mother Earth, water and air, all the pollution and so on, and out of balance, and what we're calling climate. I think there were two different words. Climate change is one of them. It's focusing on our own sacred self, and we're earth, water, fire, air. In the earth, water, fire, air, that means just taking care of our body. And that's a simple thing like inquiry, research, what herbs, what do we have in our kitchen? What are teas that we can make, and what are good foods that we can make, and how do we teach each other simple things of everyday life? This is the true medicine ways that we just focus. That's going on outside of us, but we are the earth, water, fire, and air. Our body is this sanctuary. It's a habitat, and the fireplace within our heart is life itself. We're calling that Hajine. It means the origin of fire, and Inapakon, that means the fire of life, and the lungs are right next to the heart. So that's inspiration. This Chetian is the Creator's sacred holy breath that we are, our in-breath and out-breath, to stay in balance and harmony within ourselves, the whole habitat. And that's what I think is the solution for climate change, because when we realize that that's what we are, that's who we are at our biological, physiological container that we're in on our spiritual life journey. And so I said there were 4 things to mention, and then I will speak briefly about what what is it we're calling ego medicine? These four things are also to pay attention to in our personal life, that we deconstruct and say we're no longer going to be led astray. That is a mind-body dichotomy, the belief that that we exist separate and outside of these four elements, that we exist outside of the laws of nature. That's just not true. This mind-body dichotomy that was promoted by the Western philosophers, let's just remove that, and that is just not true. We are not existing outside of earth, water, fire, and air. We are earth, water, fire, and air, the four sacred elements within the earth, water, fire, and air. And we must stay in balance and harmony. Therefore, our decisions will always be constructive and life-affirming. The second one is dualistic thinking. You were speaking to that in many ways, Mari, about pitting one against the other, and pitting one against the other, and decisiveness, deciding to be divisive. And then the third one is that I already spoke to the belief in a deficient self-image. We must give that up also. It's just erroneous. And then the last one here, perpetuating male dominance and female submission. Again, that is an extreme out of balance condition throughout the generations, and that causes the animosity, aggression within us and between us. And only when we then see ourselves as a life giver, nurturer, and a healthy helping teamwork, that's our female life task, life giver, nurturer. The male life task is protector and provider. And that's how we will rebalance our communication and our relationship. No, and we must eliminate male dominant, female submission, to purge, to deconstruct the animosity and aggression within us and between us. Before I go to the ego medicine, could we just look at the criminal mind chart? I wanted to use that earlier. We're just going to look at it, and then we're going to look at the other chart. You know, there's so many audiences I have shown this to, but I just continue to show people this because it's just really blatant. This was done many, many years ago, but you see on the left side that you see the mind-body dichotomy, where there's a black bar there between the diamond crystal soul and the 5-pointed gold star, and then there's an X. So it looks like this. We think we're separate and outside of nature and natural order law, and then this one here in the forehead is the dualistic thinking. That's what creates the energy spirit you see there in gray. It's not standing beside us, it's in us and on us that causes sickness. That is the root cause of suicide, homicide, and medically diagnosed sicknesses. So that's just a glance, a look at how we have followed a path where I wanted to bring up a really important point here. Mari, you were mentioning the word shaman and going in detail about misconceptions about it. This work here, there's no conversion process because it is not a belief system, it's not religion or philosophy, and it's not academic theory. This is just a description of natural order law. So there's no conversion process. There's no take away and replace. Also, very important regarding the term rascal gurus or false prophets or the term even rascal guru or shaman, is there's no intercessory. There's no one that says, oh, I'll speak to the spirits for you, I'll talk to the gods for you, and so on. There's no intercessor. There's no intercessor except one's own soul. So you look on the right-hand side and you see that the mind-body dichotomy is removed. The belief in something false is removed. The dualistic thinking is removed into the oneness of right and left brain thinking and conscience. And you see that there's a connection there. The light body, we're a light body, and then we're existing in our sacred geometry, and we're existing in the personality. And there's that golden thread or silver thread there that exists through our heart, that is our holistic self. And that's where all the answers are. I'm teaching to look within ourselves, to listen to our own soul purpose and our own sovereignty, meaning we're governed by the laws that were inspired and motivated by the beings that take care of humanity. When we listen to our own sacred self within us about what we say yes and no to. So that's using the art of making distinction between the law of will to live and will to good, that is goodwill, and the other one that is contradictory, that we know is existing out there, but it cannot have power over creator's laws. It cannot have power over us. There's no way that any lies or evil can have power, which is will to power. That's what we're eliminating here as not real, not true, cannot go forward because we're not giving our energy and our attention to that. We're teaching the next generation to use their own creative imagination, their own intuition, their own conscience, their own moral reasoning within. Okay, so then we'll bring up the other one, the indigenous ceremonial change process. And on this chart, you can just see a bottom chart showing a triangle going up, which is the symbol of how resources are going from poor to the rich every generation. And at the bottom of that triangle, you're seeing how people polarize into perpetual adversary conflict and warfare. And we said we're reframing out of that, meaning that that's not our intention to feed that, but only to affirm what is good, beautiful, and true. And we can't give away our power, and no one can take our power, but we can deny our own power. And humanity is defiant in their denial. And we're saying we're wellness, restoration oriented, which is we're not part of this rescuer, enabler, unhealthy helping people to stay the way they are. And the persecutor is a demerit system and a punitive system. So that doesn't work either. And then, of course, agree to lose and pay to lose. It's all based on lies and blame shifting. The victim is, by the way, compromise is lose. Everyone in this life script of perpetrator, predator, rescuer, enabler, persecutor, victim, it's really lose. So I'm identifying rescuer, enabler, dependency on the system. I'm identifying that as health and human services persecutor is jail, court, police, jail, prison, military, police, and so on. Victim, of course, are the addicted, mentally ill, incarcerated, and homeless. And I'm saying deserving poor because the money contracting through the system is for categorizing and identifying people to be coming from these, quote, dysfunctional families in order to contract and use people for benefiting the money system. Like I said, healthcare delivery systems through the healthcare delivery person is bringing the money to the top. And the reframe, of course, the leveler and truth teller follow that shaded pathway to the indigenous ceremonial change process in the middle. So we can see in the middle first, because that's what we're doing. This is what we're doing here. We've been naming out of balance conditions. We've been identifying root causes, and we're allowing each of us in our own way to tell our story, our situation. This is what's bothering me. This is what hurts me. This is what I don't like. This is what needs, I don't know why it's like this. I need help with this. We're emptying it by identifying the root cause so we can deconstruct it. So that requires emptying it. We cannot move on without this naming what's out of balance, identifying the root cause and emptying it, because we will be carrying these crystallized thought forms within us, and we can pray and dance and sing and entertain, and yet we could still be fostering diabetes, no sweetness in life. We could still be fostering cancer, which means a profound need to change one's thinking to get out of some rut. And we could be designing our own medically diagnosed disease by harboring them within us. We must go through designing a safe and supportive environment for emptying. There's no judgment, there's no punishment, there's no condemnation. There's just an acknowledgement and saying, yes, it's like this, but this is the solution. And when we reframe and we're in group consensus by saying, yes, we must choose constructive and life-affirming decision, and then you can bring it to the top. The chart to the top. Then you can visually see this is actually how we exist within the natural order law, that we're existing in time and direction, east, south, west, north, sunrise, midday, evening, midnight. And there is the child traveling to youth, to adult, and parenthood, and to elder and grandparent. And then we see that there are 4 nations of people. I'm identifying the East sunrise with white shell as a jewel nation of white people. And to the south, the red people, that's turquoise, esoteric color, turquoise, but red people as a jewel nation, turquoise jewel nation, the red people to the south. And then to the west is the yellow people, jewel nation of abalone shell. And to the north is the jewel nation of obsidian or jet and midnight and the black people. The 4 jewel nations born equally into the sacred circle, so that we see that no one can say that they're higher or lower, that we're existing and traveling together as a nation of 4 jewel nations to collaborate, to cooperate, and to go forward in this perfect peace and love that is in our very in-breath and out-breath, that we speak, that we think, and we speak, and we act, and we make decisions and put them accordingly into the creative solutions we design. and we manifest them, and we just start with ourself and our home and our personal life and just whatever's going on out there. It's not ours. That's not who we are. We can only take care of ourselves and our own soul purpose and life mission and our own conscience and moral reasoning to say yes and no appropriately to the daily questions that come up. And that's what I have to offer before you can take that down. And I have this last piece on the ego medicine, and we open it up again to what now this living ceremony. We've been through the sequencing and the purpose of it.
Patricia, can I
Yeah.
interject here? Ingrid, can you put that diagram of Patricia's back on? Because I want to just say two things really quickly.
Of course, yes.
One of them is living ceremony and our elders group. We have a page on Facebook called the Unity of the Four Directions, where we're going to be getting into talking about that. And we're really into working together. How can all the indigenous nations, and that's a question for later on, how to align yourself into caretakership of the earth, water, fire, and air within and also without. So when that happens, then you're living in an indigenous way. But if you look at Patricia's diagram, so actually we would love to have you join our Unity of the Four Directions page if anybody's listening on Facebook. But if you look at the page, I was just going to give an example of something Patricia was talking about, which was the undeserving poor, or the deserving poor, excuse me, where if we look back at the health system, Patricia was saying how people are held in a certain place, like they'll be given, maybe a welfare check or something, a pittance kind of thing to hold them in place. And the system actually takes money in from people to give to the poor, but what actually happens is the poor get very little of it, and instead the healthcare system or the system itself has the CEOs and all these people benefiting from it. And so they create a system so they can actually take the wealth and give very little to the poor people, as an example. And so it keeps the perpetuation going of this higher group that wins and the other people that are kept down, because there's no real intention to break free the people below and everybody work together, as that everybody would be solvent and everyone would be a contributor on a spiritual level. They're basically, the top triangle is holding in place the garnering of taking all this wealth in to grab it for itself and its structure. And then the lower group, they just get a pittance because basically the upper structure is giving out little bits of that pittance, pretending that it's doing good for the other structure. And then it makes the other structure dependent on it. So you get dependent on that and you can't get out of it. But the bigger structure on top is getting the bulk of the proceeds. That is what Patricia's talking about how that kind of thing goes down. So I just wanted to give an example of what she was talking about. And then I'm passing to Patricia to really talk about eagle medicine or anything else you want to say.
Yeah, the point you're making here that I just kind of said all in one paragraph is to use people to justify the money of contracting. So to artificially create homelessness, hunger, and incarceration and poverty, that is artificially created. That is to set up the victim to fail and blame the victim and then collect. And because of you, guess what? I get to have a high-paying CEO job, you know. But you owe me because you overdraw your account, and you have a late fee, or not a late fee, you have a penalty.
Yeah, the
So
bank.
that set up the victim to fail, blame the victim, and then collect. But that's all tied into contracting by using people to justify the money, while it's all going to the top, and then saying that this is for housing, this is for poverty, this is for food, this is for, and it's not even at a minimal level of meeting basic needs. And then you have desperate people. That's where crime and drugs and selling drugs and transporting drugs and so on. So we have to look at the whole picture of where does it originate, and where just in our own personal life and our own decisions about I'm correcting, I'm doing a deep self-assessment and a deep self-reflection on how am I making decisions in which in my neighborhood, in my life and family and friends, I'm doing a gift economy. How do I trade something for something else I need? And it's not necessarily always cash or this money system, but at a minimal level, we need to use it for our benefit by considering that it came from Creator and it didn't come from the bank. It came from Creator, and it's from the plant. The non-Sethian are the holy plant people because it's made of linen, and it comes through that door in such a way that because we have that need and it's granted to us, but we have to trust these laws. And when we do, we're counteracting that we're not being enslaved by a fear base that we have to comply to making decisions that's really going to harm ourselves and others. Because if our temperature goes up, or if we can't breathe, or our body is broken in some way, that's life itself. We're life itself, and the planet and the earth, water, fire, and air in the environment. When we realize the self-realization of our spiritual existence within this harmony, that is real. We must have reverence for life. We must take care of ourselves, and we must start with ourself, rebalance ourselves in such a way that we can begin to reframe around us within our friends and with our family, and let's have a conversation. How do we go about it? And just leave all the other, it's not ours.
Yes.
We are doing something about it, putting it into action, and then we can connect with like-minded people and kindred spirits, and it's a sequencing process.
I would like to point out one more thing about
Sure.
demonization
Of course.
different peoples. Like as an example, before the boundaries were drawn on the planet, there were Hispanic people coming, or Indian people coming across the border, and they would go up from Mexico through California, and they had a route that they went over and over and over. And it's funny because we can, the news and different people will suggest to demonize somebody and saying, this is a technique in control to demonize a group of people, saying that they're to blame, like they're taking all your money, they want insurance, they want this and that. Oh, somebody stole a piece of pizza, like a black person, so they get 150 years in prison for stealing a piece of pizza to eat, or a lawnmower or something. But then white collar workers can steal in the stock market mass amounts of money and get no problem from it, and they don't even get any jail time. So things are not being delved out correctly. So whenever you hear demonization, to look and see that that is actually a tool being used to control something, control a narrative as an example. And so to whenever you start hearing things like that, we need to, very much like Patricia said, look very deeply into the lens of how this has been created so we can understand the ramifications of all of it. Because if we think poor people are on our backs and they're hurting us because of that, to see, in fact, like Patricia said, this whole system has been made in that way to demonize people, so people don't look into it because they're very afraid if they say something or they look into it that they will be labeled as a truth teller, a troublemaker, someone that isn't towing the line, isn't popular, and then we'll throw the baby out with the bathwater and we'll basically get into cancel culture and not have a very deep conversation about a topic. So we should be able to talk about things in a safe nest where we hold each other and get deep into it and really dissect this stuff so we don't get caught in the pitting of people against each other and the cancel culture and the demonization, like even taking on different topics that are coming up, like what's a woman, what's a man, how can we all as people have a sacred place in all of this? There are so many discussions that are troubling people to the point where everybody is just spinning out of control and yelling and screaming and trying to bat the other person on the on the head if they say, quote unquote, the not popular thing. How can we get out of that and start going into safety and start looking at it in a very deep way? And so I don't know if you want to talk about eagle medicine right now or in a second, but.
Well, let me ask if anybody else wants to say anything, have a comment or ask a question or have your insight on what we're speaking. Does it make sense to you? Does it help? Does it help you to where to focus and not be so affected and impacted by there's death, there's war, there's children, there's energy, the energy field is affecting us and impacting us. And I'm just sharing with you that I've made it to this age and how I made it to this age and what I'm doing personally for myself, because I had to survive this annihilation of our people, and we're in the prison camp, the open prison camp on reservations.
And how can we create this safe space for everyone and not demonize anybody, the natives, demonize the poor, demonize anybody? How can we create that? Everybody is a precious child of Creator. I think if we look into more the question of how did this all kind of take place, that it's gotten people into, everybody's trying to fend for themselves right now. Everybody's trying to, we're all having to deal with capitalism. We're all having to deal with how to make a living. We're all having to deal with all that. And that's part of the walking, where one foot is in one world and one foot is in the true world, the actual world. And understanding that we as young, well, I'm an elder, but I know I don't look so old. My hair is fairly brown, but is understanding that we as older people, and if you're not older, I will address you too, but have the opportunity to set up the younger generation in a better way and take full responsibility for the whole situation right now. And so knowing that everyone has to make a living, and at the same time, how do we repattern things to bring it into harmony where people don't have to scrounge around selling things that might be not the right thing for them to do or not. But the problem is everybody's having to fend for themselves, hopefully not go down the tubes. And there's no all for one for all kind of energy going on. And so I think it's a bigger question on how to start envisioning life after, of course, we diagnose everything and we straighten ourselves out. How to envision life in a way that it's in right relationship where we can start offering offerings that get it into that mode. So I would go there really with it, what you were talking about.
Well, Nancy, you're bringing up the elusive American dream, and then Mari, you're bringing up the term capitalism, and capitalism is based on privatization. So that's what my chart is illustrating: private land, private property. And so that's why there's this conflict of interest of when we follow the family, the extended family, the community, and the healthy helping, that's going to be called communism and socialism. This healthy helping, and unhealthy helping is to help this, to support the system, to support the dependency, the normalized pathology dependency on the system that doesn't work and will never work because the foundation is faulty. So that also does, it just impacts everything. This faulty foundation, what doesn't work, we're building on something that doesn't work, and still trying to promote to people of color that that this American dream. You know, they set up the victims to fail and then blame them and then collect from them and put them into the category of poverty and homelessness or like you said, possible bankruptcy, because it looks unrealistic. But to believe in the American dream and to believe in capitalism is we're not even acknowledging as people, all people on this continent, that it's faulty foundation and that it never worked, it doesn't work, and it's not going to work. But we still want to put money into it and put our belief into it and still try to set up the victim to fail. And that is really far from wellness restoration, which we're saying we rather focus on, that we intend, that we want to put into action, and we want to manifest in our personal life and in our own environment to the best of our ability, because that intention will outlast what is called war of attrition, the war of attrition that we're seeing in Ukraine and in Gaza. The war of attrition is just to wear people down, to wear people out, and recognize, nope, not me. I'm not in that war. That's not my war. I made peace with Creator. I made peace with myself. I'm making peace with other people. I'm befriending, and that's how it is, and that's my spiritual reality, and that's where we can agree. I'm just saying, can we be humane, the humane beings that we are created to be, with our original instructions of making decisions for the greatest good, for the greatest number of people? That's the simplicity that we're focusing on, our internal and our interpersonal self, and then our interpersonal social self. So going to the purpose here on this Zoom call, that originally it was called it was for another person to talk about psychiatry in depth, and so talk about it within the title of coyote medicine. But here the reframe is that in Diné culture, these eagle, bear, snake, and so on, we don't have totem as such. We don't have, they are messengers, and coyote is not evil. Coyote is a messenger and a teacher, and they all symbolize some teaching as a messenger. And so we talked at length about this topic and all the content that we have covered thus far. And the other person that was scheduled during this time frame that was not available will be teaching in the future on his own book, and that will be announced at another time. And so, by the way, snake is our symbol of spiritual impoverishment. You can be living in opulence and be spiritually impoverished, and you're the people that are causing material. You're the root cause of material poverty. So that's just the symbol of it. So in terms of February, it's just synchronicity here that this time and day was pre-scheduled, that it's February. And in Navajo or Diné, I prefer the word Diné, which is our own name for ourselves, and not the label, the colonized artificial label, just label put on us of where really we don't know what it means to say I'm Navajo, but we have to say our own spiritual name. So Diné culture, the month of February is called Atsa Biyaj, and that is the birth of the baby eagle. So when I say birth of the baby eagle, who am I talking about? Atsa Biyaj. Every one of us, every single person, some people have more than one, what they call in English, in common English language, they call it right here, wherever it is on the head, where the hair twirls. The only name I know for it sounds like kind of ridiculous. They call it a cowlick. And I don't know any other word for it, but that's a really sacred part of the body, and it's also a very sacred name to say that in February, when it's a new beginning, new life, new year, and the birth of the baby eagle. That is the name and the symbol of the eagle plume. And so you see many tribes, many American Indians, and usually it's the female that wears the eagle plume and not the eagle feather. And the men can wear eagle feather, and so on. They have different rules originating from their own tribal language. And this is specifically Diné Bazad, holy people primordial ancestors, sacred language and words, that is called nihitos. Nihitos is collectively. Every person does have this twirl, and we're calling it eagle plume in our language. And when we call it an eagle plume, and we call February the birth of the baby eagle, that's talking about how we're imbued, how we are the breath of life, the spirit of being alive, and our beingness, and our spiritual wholeness, and our holiness and wholeness. That's the indwelling life itself, that we're moving around and we're making a sound. That is what is eagle medicine. And I'm naming that exactly in ceremonial language of the sound and the meaning of what this is speaking to for every person, to the self-realization, to realize ourself as a sacred being, as a precious child of Creator within creation, synchronistically and simultaneously, all at one mit and at oneness of within Hojo, natural order law that's governing us all equally, and the fundamental basis of equality. And so how does this apply to all the symptoms that we have been identifying as chaos in the world? Well, we also have a term, it's called Atsa Azet, and that's called eagle medicine, but it's specifically referring to an herb and the name of an herb identified with the metaphor. The symbol of the eagle is to teach us that in our acknowledgement of how we're interrelated, we're interconnected, all of creation with Creator within creation, in the unifying principles, and it's a holographic, holistic vision above and beyond all that is not real. So we are able to fly and have that freedom of truth is the only real power. Truth is our protection. As the eagle flies above everything, we have that freedom. Here is the heart and the lungs, and here is representing metaphorically the symbol of we are free to fly and accept ourselves, identify ourselves with our genius gifts to serve in the world together, collaborate, to cooperate. And so when we see that we are existing in the spiritual realm, eternally, meaning temporal time and eternal time is all one. That means that our in-breath and out-breath, when the air goes back to the element, when the water goes back to the water element, and when the fire element goes back, we're existing in the air element, in or out of the body, in that circle of life, in eternal life, in our eternal now, in our eternal self. These are the terms when we say Nircheti, and the perfect love and peace of Creator we're existing in. And then the eagle is flying, showing us above that we can see and we can envision. We're a seer and a visionary above what is not real. And when we see that we exist in this spiritual realm, within this all-encompassing experience that we identify and we call Hojo, and nobody can be outside of and separate from Hojo. That's the perfect peace and love within us and around us. And then we can make decisions. Then we are awakened to realize, that's the self-realization, we can embody that the clarity of our purpose on the earth plane, the clarity of our intention to live in love and peace that's within us, around us, that we embody that. And that is the solution. That's the solution to this, what I'm speaking of in a very descriptive and profound and simple a level for the general public. And that's what I have been asked to bring forward. And I'm grateful for the invitation, Mari, and the presence of all of you listening and doing your part. That's all we can do is I'm doing my part and hope to inspire others. What is your gift? And do your part to live as a humane being within your personal life and within your home, your family and your friends and your relatives, and just focus there. And that's how we change the energy of the whole other energy. We change that, we reframe that, because the whole universe is supporting what we're doing. The creator and maker and universe does not support what we've been talking about, what we named. We just eliminated it by saying it's not real and it's not truth, and people are just in this wetico spell. They're in a spell. They're in they've been recruited to a type of sorcery of self-betrayal and betraying creator and betraying themselves and betraying others. So there's nothing secret about this. Everything of the light is in the light. So there it is. And whatever discussion you want to have around that, I'm grateful and I thank you. Thank you, my spiritual family and my relatives. And so the 4 directions, I'm going to just say this affirmation that from the east, there's balance in our living. That's with conscience and moral reasoning. Our conscience and moral reasoning standards, balance and living. To the south, there's harmony in communication. And to the west, there's peace in the family. We're affirming this, we're intending this. Peace in the family and our relationships. Then to the north, there's beauty in the environment. We have self-reverence and reverence for nature. And when we see the beauty, it's originating from our caring, and we see the beauty, and then we can love, and then we're at peace. And then from the center, from the fireplace, from the center within a sanctuary of our hearth, within our own habitat and within our hearth of our home, which is a symbol of spiritual love, we're walking in this wellness, restoration, in this living ceremony. And gratitude.
Oh, yes. If anyone has any questions, please write them in the chat and we'll review them. Yeah, I wanted to,
Do we have a raised hand first?
We do, but I'd like you to write your question in the chat first. That'd be great. I want to make some points on what Patricia's said, so many different things. We were talking about capitalism and such. And, you know, to be very aware of what is happening on the planet, you know, a long time ago, there are a few movies out for Academy Awards right now, and they were documenting the Red Scare and what happened during the Red Scare. And I have a funny story to go with that, but I'll make it super brief, is that Americans were being asked to sign waivers that they did not agree with communism, as an example. And there was this big scare that you were un-American if you had communist leanings. Now, whether communism is good or not is another a whole nother topic. However, it's more about the shutting down of the conversation that we can go anywhere else to talk about things. So a friend of mine had to take a vow to work in the industry, and he signed it with disappearing ink. And I found that very funny, actually. But to open up these conversations and allow us see how people are being pressured to not have these conversations. Understand that is coming from fear and control. It depends who it is, but and then you'll get labeled as a this, labeled as a that. You'll be labeled as a dissident. You'll be labeled as a all sorts of things to shut down even having a breakthrough in conversation, and to be able to field that with people and get them to open their hearts and things like that is a whole art unto itself. And to sometimes you are going to possibly be labeled as something or other. Everything's becoming a nasty word. So you could be considered a liberal, or you're a socialist now, or you're this, you're that. It's not that. You're not that. What we are is exploring in beauty and harmony what the opportunities are for us to grow in a healthy way, and a way that is life affirming and life supporting. And to not take on those monikers that are being slung out there, to take the road of peace, to take the road of understanding, to take those roads that are worth traveling. Do we have any questions no, not yet. So
I remembered the word that I couldn't remember earlier, that the true medicine ways of healing, the wellness restoration, not talking about the current contemporary pain and disease management system, psychotropic, big pharma, prescription drugs path that Rockefeller steered the medical industry, why we're in this crisis now. I'm talking about the original, what the Hippocratic Oath was for. That term is it was called social medicine, and that's why this word social has been demonized as well. But the wellness restoration is called social medicine. And I finally remembered that why that word social sets off people, because if a person wants to only benefit themselves, they're going to not agree with the healthy helping that it takes for family, extended family, and true community living values and principles that we're now relearning and reinstituting into the future generation, because that's our only survival.
absolutely. Nancy's suggesting that there is a new kind of newer truth, but I won't use that word truth, but that's what people may be referring to, that there's only one brown human race thanks to all brown pigment. Oh well, whatever. As far as that, we're all being lumped into one group of people, and this is a bit of a double-edged sword to me, because the thing is that a long time ago, Christianity put a lot of native people into the boarding schools and things, thinking that they would enculturate. Is that the word you would use, Patricia?
I use the word acculturate.
Acculturate, okay.
Maybe inculturate works too.
Okay, acculturate them to the ideas that a group of people were holding, that we're all sinners and that they have to toe the line, and that they need to be saved by the great master race, whatever that is, and that only one group of people knew and the other people were primitive. So as far as having a specific one race, yes, we are humans. We are, and I think Patricia uses the word five-fingered peoples. We are all human. And at the same time, humane, thank you. And that's a great new redefinition for it. And at the same time, there are many peoples that have different beauty ways. And I'm going to say beauty ways as in ways that are actually in alignment with the divine. I'm not going to say just because you have something that was in your culture, it may be colonialist or capitalist, that it got changed, and it may not be in harmony. However, as people that can share and share our understandings of medicine, share our understandings of beauty ways, beauty dances, beauty ceremonies, beauty languages, we can share those things in a unified group, but we all have something to bring to the pie. We're not all the same, and we don't have to make each other the same. The only thing I feel that we can do, and we have the ability to do, is bring out what is in alignment and share that. So as far as everybody being, what the problem is people are trying to make it one government, one thing. And what it is if it's one thing and it's aligned with something that's not in harmony, then basically you're taking away all the beauty of the culture, and you're saying that this new way of living is culture, and that everybody better step in line with it. No, that's not what is spoken about doing something harmonious. It's not making everybody toe the line and just accept capitalism and who knows, all this and acquiesce to all of that. It's about sharing the beauty that's inherent, that's in alignment with our true nature and our true essence, being connected to the source and to nature.
I just feel that even if we look at someone and we send them love, even if we smile, you can see the immediate change. And, that's pretty hard to do. It's pretty darn hard to do when we're focusing on what's not good for us, and what's not good for us and doesn't work, don't use it. And I see Ava, you have your hand up, and we're close to the hour, but you can speak what you want to speak.
I really was just hoping you'd expand a little bit as you were talking earlier, because I found there was a really interesting polarization. So obviously an opportunity where in the whole mental health lexicon of labeling all of these natures, and then within the language doesn't even have words for that, which is such a beautiful distinction that Western culture has created all these labels, and people really love identifying with those labels, whether it's ADD or ADHD or whatever and then there's an entire other way of seeing that and being that. And how do we, obviously it's an opportunity because it's a complete divide of how those natures are seen, and what is the solution for, I mean, I don't have children, but people that are raising children, and obviously, in the Western society where right away where the people are plugged into the mental health system and then they're labeled comparatively to the nurturing that I've seen in community, in ceremony, and in the beautiful families and communities where that is more nurtured by culture. But how can we better bridge that? How do you see, recreating that, those language distinction, those labels where it's so that at least a good portion of the people shouldn't have to be stuck in a label identifying forever where they could maybe be nurtured to expand their gifts. So really just to put it to you, to expand on that beautiful distinction.
A person would want first to not be identified by that, because they would be giving up a certain identity and a justification for making decisions in their life, and they're benefiting by they think they're benefiting by learning those patterns of identifying as ADHD or dyslexic or something. Dyslexia is whole brain thinking. Dyslexia is like a person that can't learn left brain dominance. So you see how that's twisted? That's just one example right here. You get that one? Anybody? You understand what I'm saying? Dyslexia is not, it's not a syndrome. It's whole brain thinking. But the person in whole brain thinking doesn't fare well in a school system that programs for left brain dominance. You see? Okay, well, the other, I would take another whole workshop to talk about the really beautiful language, ceremonial language concepts from diagnostic, because our language is diagnostic. And I said first of all, there's like just for example, there's no word for evil, there's no word for bombs or war or military and so on. There is no word for mental illness. Just really briefly, two things. If a person is ignorant and their thinking is twisted thinking, we have a name for that. It is twisted thinking, digiz. Now, if a person is intentionally twisting people's thinking, and including they know how to twist their own thinking to twist other people's thinking, and they're doing it intentionally, and they're doing that intentionally, then we call that Einzin, which does literally, it means sorcery. So there's a book on Wetiko word, which is a tribal word from East Coast. So look it up. And just really briefly, in the Western culture, I'm switching because I could talk at length about tradition and to connect with our live stream and our simplifying for general public. There are two Western psychology systems that could help people understand themselves through wellness and not in these categories of diagnostic, these lifetime imprisoning categories. One of them is transactional analysis. And that just means that the creative parent the nurturing parent produces the creative child. That's what's not existing in our culture. We have the critical parent. Remember, demerit and critical parent, scolding, punishing parent produces the adapted child. So that's what we have. You look into that. That's a wellness restoration, Western quote therapy that works for wellness. The other one is rational emotive therapy. And really, basically, simply, it is helping people to see that it's not the external event that is causing our maladaptive emotion. Maladaptive is like jealousy, hatred, anger, fear, and so on. There's a whole list of maladaptive. As distinct from authentic feelings of love and peace and joy and so on. I'm making the distinction between maladaptive emotions and authentic feelings. And so it is not an event that triggers our maladaptive emotions. We're calling in the criminal mind to tell our body wrong information. And that criminal mind is to use our thinking for what it is not for. So when we do that, this Western therapy called rational emotive therapy teaches people it's not what the external event triggers our maladaptive emotions to tell our body wrong information by calling in those maladaptive emotions, spirits that cannot and do not exist within us. Then it's our decision about the event. We make the decision about the event when we say, oh, you made me mad. Oh, you made me angry. Oh, you made me depressed. We're learning our ceremonial language doesn't speak that way. It's our own decision about that event of our own that we have to deal with and acknowledge. Oh, that's my own feelings of rejection. That's my own feelings of abandonment. That's my own that I need to reclaim myself. Oh, Creator, I made a mistake. I forgot who I am. I am the precious, beautiful, intelligent child, and that's who I am. You know, there's the correction right there. You follow that?
We need to pretty soon close up.
Yes,
But
I think
I do want to acknowledge one of the comments questions, which is something of the effect of, yes, obviously there's no white-skinned people, black-skinned. We're not actually black, white. But what happened a long time ago, and this is a long discussion, is that those notions got cemented into society for the purpose of dividing people. And Irish people were not originally thought of as white people, as an example, but then vied for being called white people because they wanted the privileges that it enacted in society. So right now, when we refer to the colors, we're referring to a stereotype so we can use it to better speak about things. And at the same time, to know that there are different people with different cultural gifts to offer, and that all of us people need to be, like Patricia says, humane to each other and realize what humane is. And then eventually we can all join together. But right now, as it stands, there is a need to heal in different groups. And so there is a need to refer to different groups sometimes as, oh, Black people need this and red people need that, or different kinds of things. So this is a temporary thing, but it is part of the healing process. So to see that both we have gifts as culturally, and that it's not used as a divisive situation. And at the same time, sometimes white people, excuse me, want to use the, hey, we should just all love each other thing. And it kind of overlooks some of the prejudices and some of the ways of treatment from different groups towards other groups. So it's something we have to go through to understand how to clean it up. So to acknowledge different groups that would like to call themselves Black, Native, different things is necessary right now. It is honoring the people and what they've been through so we can clean this up. It's not about obliterating different groups and saying, let's all go under the moniker of this society. It's about honoring our individual gifts and bringing them into a humane balance by honoring all the different peoples. So it's a very complicated subject that you addressed, and thank you for addressing that subject.
Well, Mari, you're speaking more like on, could be like social, political, socio-economic, and so on. When I said in English 4 jewel nations, the key word is jewel, all born within the sacred circle of the natural order, which we're all existing in, where nobody can be higher or lower. And so I'll say that. So the east is Yolgayasa, which is a white shell. So that's referring like to our teeth and our fingernails, white shell to the white shell. So that's the jewel, the white people, but that's the white shell jewel nation as a jewel, a precious nation, which is our composition, physiological, biological. And then to the south, I said red people, but the sky is turquoise in nature. So that's an esoteric color, but turquoise. So we say, we int is Betzil. Betzil means the people's strength, and is the jewel of turquoise. So I'm speaking from the language, not from English. I'm going to need to bring that out here. So when I say to the west, to the ocean, that's the Chisle Betzil, which is the strength of the jewel nation of the yellow people. That's the abalone shell from the ocean. That's their symbol of the jewel nation. To the north, I said obsidian or jet. That's Bashani Betzil. And so it's coming from the ceremonial language of our 4 jewel nations that cannot be actually divided or separate in nature, in the natural order law, because we're all born and existing as original nations, and then everyone actually is indigenous based because we're indigenous to the earth, water, fire, and air. See? So that's the distinction from the ceremonial language, from the ceremonial we call it Deneh Bazad. That means the holy people, sacred language and words. And I'm just describing them very briefly into English to take this word alignment so that we're not excluded. This language is inclusive, and when we say Ya'at e shik e shidne, there's no way to say but not you. Impossible, cannot say but not you. The language is inclusive, so therefore it's cross-cultural, so therefore it's intergenerational. And I just want to add that to what you're saying. And so the negative connotations about race that exist in politics and society, they don't apply in the natural order context container.
I would like to make a comment also about re-initializing or re-understanding our natural order and our place in it. That a workshop we did a while back, I think it's been about 4 years now, was redefining what is indigenous, and not just being born here, but actually understanding what Patricia is saying and living in harmony with the actuality of what it is to caretake the earth, water, fire, and air. Until that happens, it's best to not define oneself as indigenous if one is not even attempting or even slightly there, and one's coming from a colonial capitalist mindset. So this mindset and this heart set needs to change. And so we're not touting, okay, all you guys suddenly say you're indigenous and you take out an eldership shingle and suddenly declare yourself as such, because that's ludicrous, because we haven't been living that way. We don't even understand what is being talked about until we do. And then it's about humility before creator, and creator is the one that tells you when it is time to do such a thing, not you just because you want to jump on the bandwagon and create a workshop and be a big star or whatever it is. This is not about being a big star. This is not about taking capitalist advantage of an idea. This is about incorporating and living the idea from a place of being where one has had deep realizations about it. So please, please, I say unto us, let us all deeply contemplate being humane and our relationship with everything, and step gingerly into that with love and reverence, because it would be completely insulting to the indigenous people for all of the people that are in a colonialist mindset. Even if you think you've memorized the words that Patricia has said, it would be deeply insulting to actually go think that that's true if you don't really embody it.
Oh, that's the key right there. Living it means you have to embody it first. And yeah, humanity has not embodied it. And it's just amazing to me, like nobody knows their earth, water, fire, air, living, existing in the earth, water, fire, and air, or we would be making totally different decisions about what is destructive and death producing or what is constructive and life affirming, until we actually realize our true self, spiritual identity.
Yes. Thank you so much, Patricia. And we would like to really offer you all a home. And, we have talking circles and different kinds of things that we have for people. And part of living ceremony is the 4 directions, which is I run Order of the White Shell, and we're going to eventually open up the other directions for groups, and then come together as groups and share the beauty that we, because sometimes we have things to work out where we feel bad about certain kinds of things, and only we can talk together in certain groups. And white shell also might mean people that have some modicum of European, but also are African partially, or vice versa. And how do we come to live that in beauty when sometimes both sides of the fence are kind of hitting at us or asking us for clarification or all sorts of things. So sometimes there is a beauty to meeting with like people, so we can work these things out in safety and harmony, and then come together in safety and harmony and work things out that way. And I love you so much, Patricia. I thank you for being who you are and what you do. And I open this to everyone that wants to come in and explore with us further, so we can recreate what's real in ourselves and our understanding, and also come together and maybe make some plans on some things eventually, maybe creating communities, creating ceremonies together, all sorts of things, because this is life as a ceremony. And that's why living ceremony is called that.
Yes, and by the way, all the other alchemy and chemistry and minerals and elements in our body from the turquoise jewel nation and the abalone shell jewel nation and the obsidian or jet jewel nation. It's the concept here is that we're all constructed as a humane being. We're all fundamentally constructed of the same elements. That's the basis of our equality. And when we act on that, then we are loving and peaceful and humane.
Yes. Thank you so much. So
Thank you, everyone.
we're going to be doing ceremony out, and I really would like all your prayers in this ceremony. So wonderful. All right. I riam in you, guach na flash, is salshish grenu, in yela na gyali, in aliach tina, in mira lasrach, luhas guia, in nivnacht farga, in munshas vakt talun, in naigenacht karaga. We go forth today under the power of heaven, the light of the sun, the radiance of the moon, the splendor of fire, the speed of lightning, the swiftness of wind, the depth of the sea, the stability of earth, the firmness of rock. From the heights to the depths, may we be encircled in love and safety. And I pass to Cynthia.
We give thanks to the four directions. Jinkoye Teri Kirongi. And I pass to the center.
Passing to Ava.
Thanking and blessing all that came into the sacred circle from the four directions. We cleanse and purify ourselves in a good way, closing this circle, washing ourselves fully and completely with these medicines, bathing every corner of our energetic field and into the beyond of our daily lives. As we reflect in the coming days on all the messages and prayers shared today, may our thoughts, words, and deeds reflect the good work of realigning our own relationships with Mother Earth and all forms of life upon her. The sacred circle is now closed. May we go out in the world wrapped in a blanket of love and light and protection as we breathe new life into creation, all my relations. I pass to the center.
I would like to let you know that our Elders in Living Ceremony hopes to continue to build on the work that we have done today and the work we have done in the past, and which includes offering healing workshops, nonviolent communication, Indigenous wisdom, and coming to consensus circles. All of our needs will be considered real and valuable in these sessions, and you can watch our YouTube channel if you haven't yet done so. Cynthia will put the link in the chat. And if some of the classes will require that you listen to some of the circles first, so I can send out the information for everybody if you join our mailing list. If you're not in our mailing list yet, you can join at the link in there in our chat. And we are going to work on clearing more of our subconscious patterns, but also getting in harmony with the truth of our nature. And Patricia will be spearheading some of that, or I guess that's not the best way to put it, but facilitating some of that. And I'll send out a replay of the workshops that you would need to watch in the newsletter when it comes to joining certain classes. We also are going to be touching on some hardcore subjects in the near future, like AI, economics, and more on health and Indigenous ways and balance. and comparing and contrasting the current paradigm to a more harmonious one. And please consider aligning with the law of reciprocity by offering a heart exchange for any benefit you have received here today, as well as benefit for any of the classes we have offered in the past. The emails you have gotten as homework and through watching any of our videos. We need your help to continue the work and pay for our expenses and feed grandma, as Patricia calls it, and contribute to our staff and speakers. Let's see here. And you can sign up for our email list with the same link that is being posted in the chat to make a donation. You can drop your email in the chat right now if you want to do it that way. And thanking our elders and our tech facilitation team, Ingrid, Cynthia, and Ava, our ceremonialists, and my co-host, Patricia, and all of you, as we need to do this together to heal the planet and our relationship to the truth. We are also looking for tech people to assist, and Ingrid has been gracious to help out this time, but sometimes she's busy. Also, if you have any suggestions for classes or exploration or groups, drop us a line. Much love and gratitude, and we hope to see you at our upcoming events. Many blessings.